everybody, thanks for joining me. Today I'm tying a little mayfly spinner pattern using moose mane hairs to give the body effect. The hook I'm using is a size 16 dry fly hook, but you can really tie this as small as you're able, right the way down to 22s, 24s. The thread I'm using is sheer 14/0 in brown, and for the tail we're going to be using some fibbits. These are synthetic fibres, much like you'd get in a paintbrush. For the body I'm going to be using two moose mane hairs, a light one and a dark one, which we're going to wrap together to give a segmented effect. For the wing I'm using some polypropylene yarn, and for the thorax we're going to be using some superfine dry fly dubbing in rusty brown. So I've got my hook in the vise here, and I'm going to cast on, make a few turns to secure, and snip the excess. I'm going to carry the thread down to the base of the fly, just up right by the bend of the hook shank, and here I'm taking the tiniest pinch of dubbing. I just want to make a little ball at the end of the fly to help spread the fibres of the tail out. That's plenty. Now for the tail I've taken two fibbits, and you want to leave these quite long. This fly relies on surface tension to hold it up. There's no hackle or anything else to help it float, so having a long spread out tail and a wide lightweight wing will help to sit right in the surface film, just like the naturals, the dead and dying insects. So I'm going to snip off the excess on the fibbits and tidy up a little bit at the front, and I'm just going to take a moment here to spread those out, and you can see that little ball of dubbing is going to help them sit splayed out and give a nice wide base. Here I've taken a white and a brown and black moose mane hairs. I'm going to tie them in from the tips and carry them down the body. I like tying with moose mane. When you wrap it, it gives a very nice segmented effect to the body. On larger flies you can use 3 hairs. Here there's only really space for 2. So I'm going to very gently wrap these, making sure to keep the hairs parallel and not to let them cross over. I'm just going to wind in touching turns, and you can see we're building up that segmented effect. It gives a really nice body. I'm going to tie off at the front here, and moose mane's quite brittle so I can just pull away the excess. And now I'm bringing in a small pinch of polypropylene yarn. This is maybe a third of the width of the entire yarn. I split it down. You really don't need much bulk. Like I said, this fly relies on surface tension to hold it up in the water. So I tied it in lengthwise down the hook shank, and now I'm just making some cross wraps over the top to help keep it parallel. Make a wrap in front and behind, and I'm just checking the position here, a little bit back on the right, so I'm going to make some extra wraps from right to left to pull that wing back forwards. There we go, happy with that. So now I'm going to take a light dubbing, the same one that we used earlier, and just make a really fine sausage on the thread. I'm going to build up a little bit of a thorax on this fly. I'm going to use those same cross wraps as we did earlier so that the wing gets covered. I can make a wrap in front and a wrap behind. And here, built up a little bit of a thorax, taking the thread behind the hook eye, and then I'm going to come in with my whip finisher and tie off. I've had a few people ask which whip finisher I use. It's the Marc Petitjean one. It's quite expensive, but it works really well, especially on small flies like this one. You can get right up under the hook eye. I nudged my tails there, so I'm going to spread those back out. And now we're going to trim off that wing to length. I'm using some curved scissors here, and just trimming it out slightly longer than the body. There's a couple of straggly fibres, so I'm going to snip those away. This gives a really nice iridescent wing effect, much like the dead insects. And there you have it. So that's my tricot spinner. Give it a go. It's an easy pattern to tie, and it can be very effective.